Welcome back to the Concussion Protocol Podcast. We made it, guys. We made it a whole season, and we are now at the last highlighted pick section of the season with the National Championship of two teams that I guarantee you nobody saw coming. Nobody thought that this championship would ever involve Indiana and Miami. I don't think many people would have guessed Indiana or Miami, but let alone both of them. But here we are. This is the new era. This is the NIL era. Transfer portal's crazy. You're getting super seniors everywhere, and you have a what is Carson Beck in his technically like 7th year of eligibility is now leading his Miami Hurricanes in a home game against the Indiana Hoosiers in a national championship. Man, take a moment real quick. I know you can't see Connor here, but we need some Kirby Smarts claps here for how much effort we put into this podcast this entire year.
You can't see me, but I'm doing it.
How much blood, sweat, and tears we put into this. It's been, 5 months now? When did we start recording? Was it June or July?
July. It was like, I think our first recording was like July 22nd or something like that.
I think we were recording not super consistent, but we were recording pretty much every week.
Yeah, back then we had 3 videos that worked. Now we're down to 2.
We're actually more consistent in the off season, right? In the postseason.
We're doing great, guys.
Yeah, but we made it through. This is season 1, guys. Season 1 of the Concussion Protocol Podcast. I am your host, Chase. This is your other host, Chance, and the ghost of Connor is your other host.
At least the squeaky chair is crystal clear when it comes through.
Scare us, Connor. Go, ooh.
Woo. Can you guys actually hear my chair squeaking?
Yes. We also can hear when you flush the toilet. But thankfully you didn't do that during the podcast.
The door was closed.
Oh, wow. I thought it was open for sure. Dang.
No,
that must be a good mic. At least you got a good mic. Maybe not a good computer or internet, but a good mic.
Well, that's the thing we invested in, so that's a good sign at least. But all right, let's get into it, guys. Our last highlighted pick section of the year. The Miami Hurricanes versus the Indiana Hoosiers. Connor, we were very proud of one of these teams, apparently from week 2, which by the way was Kennesaw State. But apparently off the vibes of that game, Connor just knew that this team was them. So let's lead off with who Connor thinks is going to win this natty.
Yeah, I think LSU has a real shot this year.
Yes. Wait,
they're going to come out of nowhere.
I thought I just time traveled back to July. Oh
no! So real talk, I am absolutely 100% picking Indiana Hoosiers to win the national championship this weekend. That being said, I am really having a hard time, and Chase, I hope you appreciate that I'm saying this, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I am having a hard time with these Joe Burrow to Fernando Mendoza comparisons. I'm not saying that Fernando Mendoza was not worthy of the Heisman this year, but I need everybody to cool it down a little bit with talking about him being comparable, if not better than Joe Burrow. I'm not I don't claim LSU in my fan base. I don't hate them by any means, but I just don't claim them in my fan base. I certainly don't claim to be an SEC fan. But Joe Burrow had one of the greatest seasons ever put forth by a college football player that we have ever seen. Him and Tim Tebow, were magnificent, are the two best in my opinion. And you can make some arguments that Joe Burrow was better than Tim Tebow. So I do need the Indiana fan base to cool it down a little bit. We were talking about in the last episode, don't be new money, But that being said, this Indiana team, they don't make mistakes. They are loaded with disciplined talent on both sides of the ball. They are relatively healthy as anybody could be after playing 15 games of college football. And not that Miami isn't those things. Miami has a lot of good things going for them. I hope that it's an excellent game. I would honestly be kind of disappointed if Indiana just steamrolls and bullies their way through. But these teams do some things similarly well. They absolutely own the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They have receivers that can make plays and do make plays on a consistent basis. They have 2 excellent quarterbacks. Miami also doesn't make a lot of mistakes. That being said, Indiana, I think, just makes less mistakes, and they are slightly better at those things. We will see. But right now, yeah, Indiana, and I've said it about a lot of teams, and I've regretted. I guess I shouldn't say I regret it. Teams that have shown themselves they make mistakes and then I take it back. But that's been kind of my motto this season is until a team shows me that they are capable of making that mistake, that fatal error, then I'm not going to believe that they will. I'm not going to sit there and think that they will. Miami has fallen short in the past this season. Texas A&M, I also believed in until they made mistakes. I never fully believed in Ohio State, but I was glad they got their comeuppance in a big way. No, Indiana, I love this team. I love this team. I thought that they were the best team since I think week 3, and glad to see him there. I was hoping that we would get to see him matched up against Texas Tech, but it was not to be. So here we are, not saying anything negative about Miami, just Indiana's better.
In response to what Connor said about I have seen a lot of these, mainly the comparison has been Indiana 2025, 2026 to LSU 2019, 2020. There have been some graphics where they're showing Joe Burrow head to head with Fernando. Joe Burrow had 25 more touchdowns than him to this point, all-purpose touchdowns. So he had 20 more passing touchdowns and he had 5 more rushing touchdowns. It's not even close in that category. The comparison was their teams. I will give them that. But we can talk about that after they've completed a 16-0 season, which would be the first, which would be impressive in its own right and amazing. But we will wait and see if they can finish the job, because unfortunately there have been a lot of teams that have been getting this comparison to LSU before the season's even over, and then they don't even win it. So we'll see what happens. That's just what happens when you have such a great team that everybody wants to compare themselves to you, I guess. But Chance, how do you feel about the Hurricanes and the Hoosiers?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of indicated last episode, I'm intrigued to see what Miami can do, because I think they're going to bring a unique challenge to this game that other teams have brought. I mean, I know Penn State gave Indiana a shot. I think that was a unique circumstance in its own right. Outside of that, Ohio State played them pretty close in the championship game, and Miami's unique to Ohio State. Ohio State has firepower at receiver, which Miami has some of that, but its biggest weakness was its offensive line. And Miami, you and I both agree, Chase, probably has the best offensive line in college football. So I think that challenges some of the things that Indiana wants to do. I'm intrigued about that. I think Miami has found a couple things that are working well during these playoffs that they hadn't during the regular season. Specifically, their defense looks top notch, and even an upgrade from the regular season. And then the rushing game looks like it definitely upgraded from the regular season. Not that they did bad during the regular season, but they've dominated this postseason. So I want to see what Indiana has to do against that. I do have to disagree with Connor on a couple things. Miami is not a mistake-free football. Maybe halfway through the season, and then Carson Beck became Carson Beck. All right, we'll keep going. Show goes on. You might rejoin us. But Carson Beck had a lot of moments, and they started losing because of that. Now, in this playoffs, he hasn't had to do as much as needed, and he's played mistake-free. So can he continue to do that? Maybe, but Indiana's going to put him in some positions that other teams haven't been able to, and then it's going to be hero ball. Do you really trust Carson Beck when it comes to hero ball? I don't know about that. I mean, and that's how Miami wins. Indiana wins, right? We saw that with Oregon, that picks, fumbles, mistakes. I just see Carson Beck being forced into a lot of situations he doesn't want to be in, and he's not proven that he can be that guy that gets through it. So I do expect it to be closer, maybe like 14 to 21 points, 2 to 3 scores, not as much of a blowout as the other ones, but I just don't see a world. Okay, I take that back. Miami has a shot to win. I don't think that shot's very high though. I'm giving it like a 15% odds. 85. You play this game 85 out of 100 times. I'm picking Indiana 85 times. That's where I'm at. So I just expect them to execute, outcoach, do the Indiana thing that they do, and they're going to win because of it. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair opinion. My opinion on this game, I feel like we've slowly given a little bit more a little bit more credit to Miami for one, as the postseason has gone on, but also just Connor's opinion to your opinion to my opinion. I actually think this will probably be the best, like the closest game Indiana has played in a while. I think Miami is going to put up a fight. I do think that Miami has an okay shot that they could win this game. I think it's a little bit higher than you're saying, but not by a lot. I think mainly what I've seen is that Indiana at home and Indiana at neutral fields is dominant. It's not even close. But in the games where it's been on the road against Penn State, they were seconds from losing that game, if not for Tony two taps, essentially, with their tight end, their wide receiver, two separate plays. If not for those two amazing plays by those wide receivers, they would have had a loss right there. I don't think that would have bounced them from anything. I think they still would have made the championship game. But I'm pretty sure that would have changed the tone of the season for them. Same goes with Iowa. They played against Iowa. They only beat them by 5. It was a very, very close game, and they definitely could have gone Iowa's way, but Iowa's Iowa at the end of the day. So, and then Ohio State, they played them very, very close, and Indiana just played better. So for Miami specifically, as we discussed previously, yes, I think their offensive line is by far the best in the country. I think they've only given up 6 or 7 sacks this entire season. I'm not even kidding. I'm pretty sure it's that number of sacks in an entire season. That's amazing by itself. They're playing amazing. Carson Beck should be as calm as he's ever been in his life with that kind of protection. And at the same time, you bring up Carson Beck's mistakes. Miami has made some mistakes. They have not been gone Carson Beck lately. Carson Beck, this entire postseason, has thrown 1 interception, and it was a tipped pass. It was a tipped ball. Wasn't really on him. It was unfortunate. He did throw the pick. It wasn't the Carson Beck of Georgia where he just threw it in the triple coverage and you're like, yeah, that's obviously what are you doing?
Yeah, but compare Miami Ole Miss versus Miami Indiana. Who's gonna frustrate Beck and put him in those positions more?
Yes, I do think that there's a very different standard for defense between Ole Miss and Indiana, but they also played against Ohio State. While you can argue Ohio State was very rusty coming off of their bye or whatever happened with them, Ohio State had shown the whole year that they were some dominant team that made teams make mistakes too, and Miami didn't make them. They didn't. I think Miami in this postseason has really shown that they are not their midseason form. They are a different team right now. They're playing to their potential. I think even in that Ole Miss game, they didn't even have to really throw the ball. They could have just ran it down Ole Miss's throat that whole game because their offensive line was dominant. They were getting 6 yards of push before they even touched the running back half the time. And if you're averaging 6 yards of carry, you're getting a first down every other play. You don't need to throw the ball, but they did. Some mistakes happened, some bad plays. Ole Miss made some amazing plays on their end and kept it interesting. Indiana, you're right. They aren't going to make any mistakes, or they're going to make very little mistakes. They are easily the most disciplined team in the country. It is not even close. They are so steady and they work as a team. They don't jump off sides when you try to force them to. Like they're so just poised and ready for this, and they fight together. But Miami's at home too. This is a home game. They're in their home stadium playing this championship. This isn't even
but Indiana's allotted to so many tickets that they're going to show up. I mean, it's probably going to be more Miami fans, but it's not going to be a true away game.
You have seen that they've upped the prices specifically for that, though. They're making it a very expensive game to travel to.
Have you seen how much it takes for parking?
Yeah.
The parking, it's insane. Parking's more than a normal game. Just to park your car.
A lot of these tickets are ridiculous priced, and that's secondhand ticket sellers should be ashamed of themselves. But yeah, I think this game, while those tickets are allotted like that, I think it is going to be more Miami sided. It's not going to be like a home field completely where it's that one sided, but it is going to be definitely in Miami's favor. I think that's going to help Miami a lot. I don't think it's going to be enough to win, but I could see it happen. This is the first team in this postseason where I've been like, I could see it happen. Like Alabama, it was belt to ass the whole time. In Oregon, same thing. That first play of the game was a pick six, and I instantly and non-ironically said, "This game's over." I was like, "It's over. You can't make mistakes against this team." And to start the game with that, I was like, "It's over." Even though they came down the field, they scored, they tied it up right away. I was like, "It's over." I'm sorry, but Indiana is going to make you make more mistakes, and Dante Moore did. He fell victim to a couple more mistakes. So I could see Carson Beck making a mistake. He's done it a lot of his career, but lately he hasn't. He's really proven himself. I'm very impressed with how he's performed. Very super impressed with their offensive line. Their defensive line is top 5 in my opinion. They're fantastic. The running back's been amazing. They have a two-headed running back, essentially one who's a little bit more finesse, more elusive, and the one that's just power, runs right through everybody. And then obviously Malachi Toney, that dude, what they get him on those screen passes, dude, that dude is insane. It is insane how they make those plays work so well without getting some penalty called on those plays. Like there's usually always, with that much interaction, there's always a hold or ineligible receiver downfield or some other type of penalty that negates those plays, and they've just been running those plays to perfection. But Indiana's got time to prepare, so they're going to be ready for that. So unless Miami's got more tricks up their sleeve, it's going to be a very tough time to compete against this Indiana team. So
Yeah.
I'm still picking Indiana, but I don't think it's a complete runaway. I think I could see Miami keeping it within 10 or 14. I could totally see that.
Yeah. I think keys to me for Miami winning, and if these don't all come together, it's Indiana. Is 1, Carson Beck, obviously, mistake-free football. 2, and I think this one's more of a given. The running game is consistent. I think that one's probably the easiest one out of them all for them. 3, their defensive line has to be disruptive, which I believe is possible. And we saw a play with Oregon where Mendoza fumbled. He didn't see that defensive lineman coming. He forced a fumble. That could have been a 7 points right there. Indiana is very lucky. In fact, a couple times, very lucky that they recovered some fumbles and such. If Miami can maybe get a strip sack, gets some sort of points either on the play or after the play after that, that'll be huge for them. And then we know, I think the gimmicky plays aren't going to work as much. So those screen plays that we talked about, Indiana's too good to execution-wise to let that happen. It's going to be really hard to get Toney the ball where he needs to make the score, the plays he needs to. So you really got to have it come from first the running game, get that established. And then I keep screaming his name. Marion has to have another big game. He really does. If Marion can get open and get some of that attention off him, then maybe Malachi Toney can get the ball into some space and create some plays and make it happen for him. So, and maybe even a special team play on, a kickoff return, punt return, something like that. I think those are the keys that have to happen for Miami. Anything that less than that, I just can't. I can't see it. Indiana's going to score. Indiana's going to force some incompletions, some punts and whatnot. So you really have to have those going. If you don't, it's game over. So we'll see. They have a shot, which is more than what we've said other teams have. Because I mean, Paul Feinbaum might have picked Alabama, but that was stupid. I mean, that was clear bias. This Indiana team's unreal.
Yeah. Earlier, when it came to that game, I had basically an anxiety of Alabama somehow finding a way to win just because of the history of nobody winning after a bye. I thought maybe they come out rusty. Maybe Bama gets some lucky calls because they always do. And I thought that maybe there was a chance. That was fear because I just didn't want to see Bama going further. And they didn't. And they probably won't be. I grew up in an era where they got those calls, they made those plays, and those things happen. I think we're well past that era now. It's either Indiana time or it's a free world for any team to do it. So, well, mostly any team at least, just not Notre Dame. But anyway, I think this will be the best game between Indiana and another team. I think this will be a closer one. So I'd set it at 10. I could see it going a little bit lower. I think it could also get away from them too. So we shall see what kind of poise Carson Beck and Miami brings and how they react to Indiana. So, but we're unanimous at the end of the season, which is very different from how we started it. So we do have to figure out what we're doing with the record. So I actually know what we actually have, but I will say that I'm pretty sure you won either way, but we shall see. So kudos to you on that. Kudos to you.
I had to change shirts. I had to do everything at the end. I'm pretty sure my bowl season wasn't that good though.
I think, well, once again, it depends where we're going to make a division, but I think you might be ahead either way. I'll be completely honest.
Okay.
I haven't done the full on math because I don't know. I haven't recorded totals in a while, but I think you have a good chance. But yeah, well, so our trivia segment is going to be postponed again because our contestant has opted out. He will not be
of the game.
He will not be in this segment. So we're just gonna skip that for now. We're gonna go straight to the transfer portal because this has been a very interesting transfer portal. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how these teams turn out with who they're retaining and who they're grabbing. So I will start off completely unbiased with LSU. As Connor didn't know earlier, Sam Levitt is signed the number 1 in the portal. Don't know if that's accurate or not, but that is the ranking. He is the number 1 overall player in the portal.
Well, I mean, it depends on the portal site, right? Because ESPN thinks it scores me.
Yeah. ESPN thought it was Sorsby. Someone was claiming that it was Cam Coleman was the number 1. I was like, okay, as the wide receiver, sure, but no, overall. Regardless, one of the best players left in the portal. LSU gets him in the most dramatic of fashions. Lane Kiffin makes the state of Tennessee hate him even more. Ed, did you hear about that?
No. What?
Did you hear how he got him signed?
How he signed Sam Levitt? Well, I know he was at the basketball game situation, and then
Yeah. So, but when he was at the basketball game, I mean, obviously pictures not the same as video, but it did look like there was a disconnect or a disinterest maybe. Lane was obviously going for Desmond from Washington. That didn't work out.
yeah,
He knew his back was towards the wall. He flew to Knoxville, Tennessee. Sam Levitt was scheduled to visit with Tennessee. He flew there, intercepted him, and had him commit to LSU.
Wow.
Like there's not enough hate for Lane Kiffin in Knoxville, Tennessee. Imagine it now.
It's so awkward because it's during the LSU basketball game. He's got Sam Levitt and some other recruits there, and all this Devin Williams stuff blows up right there, right? And then he has to get on a plane and beg a plane. I don't know what happened. Nobody knows, but that's crazy that he still ended up with Sam Levitt.
Yeah.
I don't know who that says more about. I'll have to think on that one because I've got my own opinions on the Levitts.
Yeah.
But that's maybe throwing some bias in there. So
yeah, no, it's definitely been a very dramatic story between LSU and Sam Levitt. So I guess it's a match made in heaven or a match made in chaos. Well, we shall see. LSU also signed 2 other quarterbacks, by the way. They signed a former 5-star from USC, and I believe I don't think he's rated that high, but the quarterback from Elon, who had an amazing season. So they got some depth now because, I mean, they lost everybody. I mean, Michael Van Buren transferred. Garrett was graduating. They had nobody. So
they had nobody before they had nobody. So
now they have, yes, I agree. Unfortunately. Damn it. But anyway, that's the past. This is the future.
You've got to be disappointed, though, because weren't they supposed to get they were supposed to get everybody, right? Everybody was supposed to. Sorsby,
that's media.
Levitt. They were supposed to. I mean, they could have had Raiola. I mean, you got to be disappointed that they only got Sam Levitt, right?
No, I think with Lane and his Charlie Weiss Jr. is the coordinator, by the way. With those 2 at the helm and all the other people they're bringing, I'm very confident that if anybody can make Levitt good through the air, it's them.
That was more of a joke that LSU fans thought they were getting everybody, but yes,
I know, but I gotta defend my team. Unfortunately, I had to defend them at the beginning of this season too, and then the middle of the season. So it's been a very dramatic ride. But
I am very curious on Sam Levitt because I've struggled with him. I believe 100% he's got a bunch of potential. I believe 2 years ago he had good games, but I think it was me personally. I think it was the Scatabo show, and Sam Levitt stepped up, and people were expecting him to make that jump, right? And again, I think this last season he was terrible. But the good thing is he made winning plays, except for the Mississippi State game. And he had a couple of good games, but most of them I thought he was not good. I mean, who did they play? Like Northern Arizona, and I was watching him. I was like, he looks terrible. And this is Northern Arizona. And again, you go back to that Mississippi State game. I swear I saw like 7 overthrows to wide receivers wide open. Like it was crazy. But his offensive line did not do him any favors. Pass blocking. Those guys can run block like nobody's business, but pass blocking, they were terrible. And you got to believe that Lane Kiffin will be able to do some stuff. You would think Kenny Dillingham too, so that's where I'm conflicted. Like, you have Kenny Dillingham, and he did showcase him in some good ways, but overall, the talent gap is probably there. So it's got to be a make or break season for Sam Levitt. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I hope all goes well.
Yeah. I have mixed emotions on both things because I watched Sam Levitt at ASU and I've seen what I thought was his potential here. But at the same time, I did not believe in Jaden Daniels whatsoever. After watching him at ASU, same thing you just said about Sam Levitt. I saw the same thing from Jaden Daniels at ASU. He was overthrowing, underthrowing. He was so inaccurate down the field, and he was surviving on his legs. He was surviving on the short game, and obviously his ASU team was not very good, but he was surviving. And then LSU turned him into a Heisman candidate. I'm sorry, a Heisman winner with two really solid seasons. I still remember that his junior season against that game against Ole Miss, it ended like 52-49. We lost, but it was an amazing, just constant, just slinging it down the field. I'd never seen the dude be so accurate in my life, and he turned into this amazing. Even his first game at LSU against Florida State, once again, openers not good for LSU, but we lost because of an extra point. The kicker missed an extra point after Jaden Daniels in his first game at LSU drove down the field to tie the game with no time left on the clock. Did it, but his kicker failed him. So, if I've seen enough now to know that while there's certain players that I think have a bit of a talent gap or a skill ceiling, some coaches, some organizations bring it out of them. I mean, Bo Nix, same thing with him, man. At Auburn, I saw nothing that made me hopeful for him. Then he goes to Oregon. He's the runner up for a Heisman. He's now in the playoffs for Denver. He got Denver to. I know there's a lot of other players on that team. The defense is the more important part of Denver, but I would have never seen Bo Nix even being a quarterback, really. Maybe a backup or a practice squad when I watched him at Auburn. But seeing him at Oregon and now at Denver, like he's been balling. So I have some hope that they can turn Levitt into something special. If not him, maybe one of the other guys because they've all had some decent skill as well. So we shall see. The question is his health. I am curious to see how he heals in the offseason. Whatever it was. So we shall see. I am hopeful for this team. We also we pulled Caden Durham out of the transfer portal, retained him. So he was in the transfer portal, and they convinced him to come back. So I am hopeful that
talented dude.
Yeah,
but he had a Sam Levitt season.
Yep, but the main question is what can they do with this O-line? I know they've got some pieces and whatnot, but that's going to be a super important part because a running back is only as good as their offensive line allows them to be. I mean, if there's not a hole ever made, the running back's going to have to dodge 6 guys just to make it out of the backfield. So
Caleb Durham, correct me if I'm wrong, he's more of a speed back than he is a power back.
So he's definitely more elusive.
You need a hole. He can't force his way to throw off a guy and then run forward for 3 yards. He needs a hole. And with no holes last year, he didn't do well.
Yeah. But that is still a good retain. So that's good to see that he's back. Also, we signed Ty Benfield from Boise State, safety.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was happy to see that because, I wasn't that blown away in the transfer portal last year when I saw we signed AJ Halsey from Houston, and he turned out to be probably our best DB the entire year by far. So him and Delaney were fantastic. So I'm hopeful to see that Blake Baker turns him into helps him achieve his potential of being a great safety. But moving on from LSU on to ASU, as I'm repping their shirt right now, it'd be a shame if I didn't talk about them, but ASU's been getting some traction in the transfer portal, mainly around 2 wide receivers they signed, 2 probably top 10-ish, top 15-ish prospects in the transfer portal right now. Red Harris, wide receiver from Boston College, and Omarion Miller, wide receiver from Colorado. Those are 2 fantastic skill position grabs. Really going to help either Cutter or whoever we have slinging the ball next season. But if it's Jake Fett, maybe. But I'm definitely hopeful. I'm not sure. Their grade is really high this year. I'm not seeing a lot of other pickups that are really making me very excited, but those 2 in particular stood out to me. Is there any that stood out to you?
On the top of my head, I can't remember names or positions or anything, but when I've seen them, I think I've been pretty impressed. I really like what ASU is doing in the portal. The issue for me is, are their departures or their arrivals gonna outweigh their departures? You lose Sam Levitt, which again I have opinions, but you know he had the potential, right, and probably has more potential in this stage of his career than Cutter or Jake Fett. So there's that. You can't. What's his bucket? The receiver. I can't remember his name right now.
Jordan Tyson.
Jordan Tyson. I mean, those two receivers you just named, fantastic. They're not Jordan Tyson. That guy's just on another level, right? Malik Brown, great running back. You can't just replace those guys as easy as maybe they have. And those weren't the issues. The issue was that offensive line and pass protection. I'm still weary. The defense is good, but is it good enough? I think ASU has built a solid team in the transfer portal, but again, unless Cutter comes in and he blows the socks off, he's a 4-star QB from high school. They've got a 4-star coming out, but I haven't seen enough from those guys personally. And again, I need to. That's more of a me problem. I haven't seen enough. What I have seen, that doesn't give me enough confidence that ASU is going to take that leap over Utah or BYU or Tech. They might finish, good 4th place, 5th place, 6th place in the league.
Well, I'm not sure about Utah because they lost a lot more than ASU.
Yeah, Utah's another worry. I mean, they maybe have leaped Utah because they got gutted. They got some good portal transfers in, but just like ASU, like the amount that went out, it cannot be as much as what they got in. I mean, they got gutted. I think of any team, they got hit the worst in the portal in America. I mean, just man, yeah.
Yeah, well, we will get into that. But for right now, let's start with the team that I think is looking really scary for next season. Texas. Wow, they are killing it in the portal right now. They are filling all of the spots that they did not have this year. The positions that they were just completely unsatisfactory in. They signed Cam Coleman, the best wide receiver in the transfer portal from Auburn. That dude is electric, and I am very scared to see him receiving throws from Arch Manning next season, especially how Arch finished the season. And then to not only have that, but then to a Texas team that really didn't have much of a run game last season, to then sign Hollywood Smothers from NC State and Malik Brown from ASU. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how do you get both of them? Like, both of them on their own had amazing seasons in their own right. And now they're on the same team. They're going to be sharing the workload, and Arch isn't going to have to carry his team anymore. Like, I think that's a crazy combination. Obviously, the O-line is a big factor. Is that going to be fixed? Are they going to be healthy? But the skill players are there, dude. Arch is going to have no excuse when it comes to skill players next season. If it's going to be anything, it's going to be the O-line. And I don't know, maybe they can't fill all the holes they lose on the defensive side of things. We'll see. But
that was kind of my worry. That offensive line, like you said, defense, they lost a lot of linebackers. They did fill a little bit of the hole with they filled it in with Pitts linebacker. I can't remember his name right now, but he's really solid. One of the best linebackers in the portal. But they lost like 2 or 3 linebackers. So depth took a hit. I think maybe the defense comes out 6s, maybe a little bit worse, but that was a really solid defense. And their offense got infinitely better. So, I mean, I think I saw the odds on Heisman favorite is Arch Manning. And unlike last year where we poked holes at it and said, hey, we're too early, let's not give him that. I'm fully on board with that, actually. I mean, not to say he's going to win it, but he probably is my preseason favorite at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Like I said, at the beginning of the season, I was like, dude, he can't find a receiver to save his life. I was like, he might be a bust completely. And then somewhere in the midst of, I think that Mississippi State game, and then that comeback against Mississippi State, dude turned it on. Dude was lighting it up. And then every game from that point on, he was playing amazing. The dude was his whole team at that point. Like, it was crazy how many times his receiver would drop the ball when it was perfectly thrown straight to his hands, or when he would just make a play with his feet and run 40 yards down the field, sometimes against his rival in Texas A&M, and ruin their season for him. But I am a firm believer that he is either going to be the Heisman next season, or he is going to be probably going to New York to as one of the candidates for it, unless some sort of injury or something happens to him.
Something would have to go terribly wrong.
Yeah.
His skill positions still suck for some reason. Offensive line goes out, he gets injured, but other than that, it would be hard not to see him there in New York. I agree.
Well, so Texas is looking dangerous, but Texas Tech is looking dangerous. I gotta make
Texas
up words
Tech.
for Texas Tech, dude. They're picking up, dude. They're living by the portal again, and it is scary.
Yeah. Texas Tech. The portal's hard, Chase, because not to poke at your team, but sometimes it works, like Texas Tech this year, and sometimes it doesn't work. Like we were all loving LSU's portal last year, and that didn't really work out, right? So,
Hey, to be fair, they did get some good pieces. It's just Brian Kelly sucks. But anyway,
yeah. But I mean, it doesn't always work out, right? I think the underrated thing of Tech's portal is they retained all their guys, all the guys that they could, right? Obviously, they got Morton, who's moving on because he's graduating and whatnot, and they probably upgraded at that position in the portal, but they retained everything that made that team good, and they're building off of that and making it better. Obviously, you've got big holes to fill in the big front in defense, and they've done a really good job at getting those guys and making sure that they fill those holes. I think the biggest holes that we saw was offensively. They got destroyed by Oregon. So we'll see if they fix those or not. Is Sorsby going to be that guy? But on paper, man, yeah, they look scary. They look like they filled the holes that they lost plus more. So, I mean, they should walk into the season at least top 10, ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were still the 4 seed, even though they got embarrassed by Oregon. They were the 4 seed, and they probably are going to be better next year. There might be some key positions where they downgraded maybe, but I mean, you're probably right. I think Brendan Sorsby is probably a better quarterback. It's just going to be now that he actually has a better team around him that he can shine. Although he won't have as much of an excuse if he does end up pulling his team back, because now his team is solid. So, but at the same time, you're bringing up their offense. They're reloaded on defense, dude. I mean, they signed Mateen Ibaragua. I'm not going to pronounce that name right. Defensive tackle from Wake Forest. That dude's a monster. He's a monster. Yeah. And that's not even it. This is one of 3 on the defensive line by themselves. Trey White, edge from San Diego State. San Diego State was a top 10 defense the whole year until the very end in the bowl game when they decided to fall apart. And this dude
until North Texas game.
Yeah. Adam Trick, edge from Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
Corey Platt Jr., linebacker from Houston. Dude, they are terrifying. That defense is going to...
They missed out on one guy only that I think would have just been chef's kiss. Coy Parrish. If they would have gotten Coy Parrish, man, I would have said it was over. But it's still looking very scary.
And this is all after the year where, I mean, they got embarrassed offensively against Oregon. Their defense played perfectly, like pretty much perfectly. They just kept getting put in the shittiest of situations by their offense through turnovers and just bad field position. And they still limited Oregon's offense, which was one of the better offenses in the league, to what they did. I think different circumstances, that defense would have shown out. But to add all these guys to it, that's terrifying, truly.
Well, I mean, they are losing some key pieces, though. I mean, you got Jacob Rodriguez, obviously, and David Bailey, a couple other guys. So, but like you said, I mean, they not only brought in some replacements, like these are top dudes, top portal dudes in those positions that they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just as nasty on defense. And then offensively, I think they upgraded. So it's scary thing. And here's a scary stat for you. First off, next year they don't play anybody.
They don't.
They're going to it's going to get worse. But this last year, since the playoffs were incorporated, I think they were like 10th point differential out of everybody the last like 10 years. And that's coming from somebody who lost in the semis the way that they did. Next year, they're going to just dog walk everybody again. It's going to be really scary.
Yeah, I am not looking forward to it, to be honest. I like this Texas Tech team, but I would like for some other Big 12 teams to have a chance and not, get screwed out of their opportunity here. If you want to just lose one game and let another team in, maybe we shall see.
They won't have it. They might not have a challenge until the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, you're probably right. Their schedule looks a lot easier than last season. So, because last season they had to go on the road to Utah right away, and they embarrassed Utah, and then they had to go on the road against ASU and without their quarterback and a couple other key players. So, but we shall see. Maybe some things will happen, and some teams will overperform and surprise us next year. I mean, the Big 12 has been
Yeah.
a very bipolar conference the last couple years, so maybe we're wrong, but Texas Tech is the king right now of the Big 12. We shall see what happens. But from that other team that they played in the playoffs, a subject that I think you had a lot to talk about on, Dylan Raiola to Oregon, especially after we just heard Dante Moore is not going to the NFL. He is staying. How do you feel about Dylan Raiola's decision to go to Oregon to be a backup?
You know, I've seen a lot of people today who are like, oh, yeah, this is the best thing for him. And I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, why? Why is that the best thing for him? To not be able to get in-game reps and everything? Like, it's not like he's like a struggling rookie that needs to learn about the pace of, a different level of football. He's playing it's the Big Ten. He was in the Big Ten. He's going to be in the Big Ten again. He's not jumping to the big boys where it's faster, meaner, and stronger, and he needs to adjust to the game and not lose his opportunity or whatever. Like, he needs to be there and playing the game. I just don't understand why this would be good for him. I understand why Oregon wants him. Quality backup on the bench, of course, yeah. But like, what is there that they can teach him by him not having game situation play enough to not be playing somewhere else and getting that? I don't think so. I don't get it. And maybe he just ran out of options. Maybe people were just like, you had that nasty injury. We don't know how you're going to be. We're not going to pay you this. And maybe he's going for a money grab. I don't know, but I'm baffled. I would think that somebody would have taken a shot at him. I mean, I don't know. I think he played decent this year. A lot better than past years. He showed his potential. I'm not totally out on him, but obviously I am this season, because why would I be? I don't know. I don't get it. Can you make sense of it, Chase?
Yeah, I don't really get it for either side, to be honest. I know you said it's always good to have a backup at the ready that's competent and like knows what he's doing. But Oregon really hasn't had an injury bug that's hurt them at their quarterback level ever. I can't even think. Did Mariota maybe get injured briefly? I don't think they've ever really had this issue. And yes, every new year is a new year. Anything could happen. But like it's like they're prepping for the absolute worst that could happen, and it just doesn't feel necessary. But if you have all the money that Nike gives them, maybe it doesn't matter, I guess. But as for Raiola's perspective, I could kind of see it because Oregon seems to really rejuvenate quarterbacks and make them special, like help them reach their potential. But honestly, he was kind of doing that at Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska was still Nebraska, but he had a pretty solid season. And honestly, if he hadn't been injured the way he was, they probably would have won even more games. They probably would have had like maybe a 10-win season at Nebraska, which would have been interesting. So,
but there's got to be a program that can do that has an open position, and not be a backup. I don't know. I mean, I understand people are saying, well, Dante Moore sat out a year, and look how it worked out for him. But he didn't have the name. He didn't have the starts. He didn't have what Raiola had.
How did it work out for Dante Moore, though? I mean, people are saying that like it's a positive thing. Yeah, he's in a great position, but he's actually the worst statistical Oregon quarterback in the last like 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, but in like 9 years. Like all the other quarterbacks they've had done had way better seasons than him. He had a lot of talent around him, but he made that game against Indiana. I know it's Indiana. Indiana probably is just the most dominant team of this year by far. But he made a lot of mistakes that were more poise. He was making a lot of mistakes that were on him in that game. There's been only a select few times where I really thought Dante Moore was like playing so good that I think he's that guy, that I think he's a Heisman candidate. I don't feel like he would do that elsewhere. I think Oregon was a good place for him. So, but the same might be for Raiola. I don't know. Oregon the last couple of years has been pulling team quarterbacks in and making them good in their last season or so. I'm not sure what they can do with an extra year with him, even if he just also with the transfer portal, he might not even stay. He might sit the bench for a year and then transfer again. So
I know
it is definitely a weird thing to see. I'm not sure that it works out for either parties, to be completely honest. I don't know.
Well, let's go to Oregon side too. They had I can't remember his name right now, but they had a QB. It bugs the heck out of me, by the way. They had a 4-star QB. They lost out on Rider Lions. BYU got him, and Oregon didn't. So they moved on to this other guy who was a 4-star QB. That guy jumped up to a 5-star. Lions jumps down to a 4-star. Whatever.
He's not offended at all, guys. He's not offended by that at all.
It doesn't, whatever, right? I think his last name is like Bossy. Anyway, so he jumps up the rankings. He's supposed to be the next Oregon guy, right? This freshman. Guess who just decommitted? That QB. He's now in the transfer portal. Hasn't played for Oregon, right? Is it because Dante Moore's staying? Maybe, or maybe it's because you have Rayola on the bench. You're not gonna play over Rayola, so it's like your third string quarterback, and Rayola is probably gonna stay 2 years. When are you gonna play quarterback? So they lost out on one of their big time recruits. It doesn't make sense for Oregon that way either, because you're risking something for who knows how long you're gonna. Who knows if you're gonna have Rayola the following year, right? You could have had next big QB of your program though. I don't know.
You know, this might come down to the format of how things are going to be now. I mean, not just with the transfer portal, but just the way that Indiana built their team with all these old dudes. I'd say old, they're 24, but like old for college sake. Most teams, they have these 5 stars, 4 stars, they're freshmen, sophomores playing at sometimes 17 years old, 18, 19. Indiana's playing with all these guys that they've been in the transfer portal, they didn't start where they were, and they got a ton of experience under their belt at smaller colleges, got some good experience, and then made it to this team, and now they're the most dominant team of the year by far. Maybe that is just going to be how it is for a lot of quarterbacks coming out of high school. Is they're not going to get a starting opportunity at one of these schools because they're going to want a player with college experience already, a super senior, a senior, or a junior to start for their program. Unless you're a smaller school like North Texas or even Cal with Saga Putilelli, I don't think that opportunity is going to be there for as many freshmen as it used to be. Like back in the day, there was a lot of teams that had true freshmen or redshirt freshmen running their team. But now I think with the way things have been and how Indiana kind of is showing a blueprint that might be what people try to replicate next season and so on, it might just be harder for those kind of recruits out of high school to get those starting positions at these high tier schools.
Maybe I agree with you. I think it's too early to tell because I think that QB position is an outlier. I think you can get older at the other positions, but like if you got NFL talent, then they want to nab you. And Dante's Moore's decision to stay in college, I'm not certain if it's the right or wrong decision. I know a lot of QBs that were really young that got drafted at his age, because he's still pretty young, haven't panned out. So maybe that has put into his decision. Maybe Oregon just has that kind of money to keep him, or maybe he just thinks he can get better and it'll help his overall career. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's too early to say, but I do feel like QB position is maybe a little different. And I've seen a lot of freshmen that say, hey, I'm not going to start, I'm going elsewhere. You see Bryce Underwood. And maybe he looked at Bryce, and maybe that's a good example, though, that, hey, Bryce Underwood, maybe he should have stayed at LSU because he didn't have that great of a freshman year. So I don't.
I'm genuinely surprised they kept him.
Michigan? Well, I think they've got a coach and a system that plays very much to his strengths.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I was surprised because I thought he might have been already kind of off the ship waiting even before the news broke of who his new coach was. But that's actually the next subject. As I call this talking point is called the Michigan Utes, Whittingham's followers. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're probably a lot more up to date on this. I made these notes, I think, 2 days ago when I thought we were going to record. 3 notable Utah transfers to Michigan already. There's probably more, but 3 that I have here. John Henry Daly. Yeah, John Henry Daly, defensive end.
Who, by the way, he got injured one of the last games. Nasty injury. He might not even play next year.
Damn, well, I didn't know that. But that dude was a stud.
Yes.
But we'll see how he bounces back from that injury.
It depends on how fast he heals. You see some people with holes in their hands that still can play QB 2 weeks later.
Yeah, that's true. JJ Buchanan, tight end from Utah. He was a freshman, but he's
Very talented.
definitely got some potential there. So that's a good
Yep,
pickup.
that's the recent one that hurt Utes really bad. By the way, Utes have really turned on Kyle Whittingham. They
Yeah.
hate that dude now.
That's that's what I was gonna get into after this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, a good safe tight end to be a safety blanket for a young quarterback is such an underrated thing for a team. I mean, obviously Vandy had that with their tight end this season, and nobody talks about this for LSU 2019, but Thad Moss, Randy Moss's kid, was amazing to have for that team. Nobody talks about him because obviously you had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Terrence Marshall Jr., and those are just the three. They had so much talent on the team. Thad Moss made so many. One of the biggest plays I remember on that team was Thad Moss right before halftime, getting his feet inbounds, almost scoring a touchdown, getting it down at the 1 to go up against Alabama. I think it was like a 20-point game at that point. That dude made a lot of amazing plays for them. So having a safety valve like that is incredibly underrated. So that could be huge for them.
Well, I'm just so we don't get roasted in the comments. He was transitioning into a receiver, so he'll likely be more receiver. But yeah, I know the Utes will trash us in the comments if I don't say that. So,
well, unfortunately, but he could still be.
You
He could
give me
still
the
be
other
a
one.
nice
I'll
safety
fill the
valve.
gaps.
Yeah, and Jonah Leah. I'm not gonna say that right. Leah.
I probably can't say it right either.
Defensive tackle from Utah as well. Transferred over there.
You're missing two bigger ones.
Go for it.
So Smith Snowden just transitioned over there. He didn't have the season that a lot of Utes hoped that he would, but he was still solid. He's got unlimited potential. I kind of wished he went to BYU, but there wasn't really a shot. Really solid corner. One of their best recruits ever. Just enrolled into the University of Utah and just entered the portal with a do not call me tag. He's going to Michigan. Celeste Moa. Number 23 recruit overall. This just happened. Utes are not happy about it. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious how you kept bringing up how Kyle Whittingham literally says the words like, well, I don't want to poach anybody, but if anybody wants to go into the transfer portal,
right,
we'll grab you. Like, that's the most passive aggressive, yeah, come with me ever. So how would you be like, I know he has taken some of your staff and probably players. How would you
no players, just staff.
Just staff.
Crazy. That's that. Maybe we'll get to that if we want to talk BYU.
I am very curious. How would you have felt if your coach had left for Penn State and did this to you? Is took basically all of your notable players and recruits like that.
Okay, so
even after the amazing season you had and what he did for Utah really was amazing.
Yeah. So sane person, not in the fandom, because I'm sure I would probably feel differently if I were in the fandom, right? Would I be mad and accuse him of tampering? I think so. Because you don't enroll into a school, go into the transfer portal with a no contact. Like no contact means I've been tampered with almost. I mean, you can almost assume that. Tough situation, just gutted everywhere. But again, a reminder, we don't know exactly how it went down, but I think it's safe to assume Kyle Whittingham didn't want to go out. He wanted to be the coach of coaching still, and they wanted to transition on. And he said, all right, well, I guess there's no loyalty. Oh, guess I have no loyalty. So Utes, it sucks. Maybe his legacy's tarnished for you. It's going to take a long time to recoup. I think you've got a fantastic coach that has the capability, but it's going to take time because you got gutted. But yeah, you were maybe in a way disloyal to your head coach, and he was like, fine, I'm not going to be loyal either. And he just took everything from them. Yeah, pretty rough.
We kept our coach of the future, but what did it cost?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I know. On Michigan's side, though, I think that they are going to be monsters next year. I don't think people are giving them enough credit for everything. By the way, there's an offensive lineman, very highly recruited. Maybe I think he is higher recruited than Celeste Moa. It's their offensive tackle. That might be the next domino. If that happens, dude, Utes are going to burn down the place. They're going to be so mad. They're already ticked. So we'll see what happens. But Michigan's looking good, man. They've got to deal with Bryce Underwood. Can they make him into what they had last year on offense, Utah? We'll see. But dang, they look good. I would expect them to be better than they were at least last year, at the very least. But I think they're going to be a power team.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see it. I am curious to see how they develop Bryce, because Dampier was solid, but I don't think his passing game was that spectacular. So I'm curious to
All
see
right, so just to play devil's advocate, because I know youth fans are going to do this. They're going to point out and they're going to say, "Hey, did you know that Dampier had a top 10 QBR in the country?
No.
It's number 7 in the country." Now I'll throw out that that's bull crap, because when you're throwing screens and this and that, and you're not taking downfield shots, he obviously was not having to deal with what everybody else had. Plus, you play inferior teams on some of your schedule, route scoreboard, whatever that affects it. But yes, his QBR was 7th in the country. So just so we don't get roasted in the comments, I'll throw out that.
Yeah, good for that. He definitely wasn't a top 10 quarterback though. But I am curious to see if they get a Bryce Underwood better on deeper throws or even medium throws. So
That's the question. I mean, I don't trust Bryce Underwood, but again, Jason Beck and Kyle Whittingham have showed that they can put a system around him, and he has higher talent now, at least at the skill positions, that he should have the help that he needs to make it happen. We'll see.
all right, moving on from the Michigan Utes, Isaiah Horton, wide receiver from Bama, going to the Aggies, Texas A&M. Doesn't sound that great out of context, because Alabama's receivers, if you're thinking about it this year, they weren't that spectacular, right? He actually led in touchdown receptions by, I think, like 3 or 4 touchdowns. He was a solid wide receiver for them. Yes, all of them were kind of dropping the balls on certain plays, but he was the best in the red zone by far, which is saying a lot, because I mean, we heard about Ryan Williams all offseason, and then this guy wasn't even really named much of the year, but he led their team in touchdowns with 8, which is not a lot out of context, but it's compared to the rest of his teams, pretty good. So I think that's a pretty solid pickup for the Aggies. I'm very curious to see how they bounce back this season. I feel like there's gonna be a drop off, but that's a solid pickup.
Yeah, I've got a lot of question marks around Texas A&M, because they do have a lot of potential. They're bringing back a lot of guys. They perform well during the regular seasons. Yeah, head scratches me. I got to think about that one and study a little bit more, because there's a lot there, but we'll see.
Yeah, it has me curious, because right now the way that their season ended with the loss to their rival and the loss in the playoffs, scoring no touchdowns at all, just
Sour tat.
it's a very bad. Yeah, even though they, like, a lot of their fans said that they were expected to go 8-4, 7-5, that they're the kings of that. So anything is much better than that expectation. But at the same time, you got to be a little bit disappointed to see that the 2 most important games of the year were that, and at the very
Yeah.
end of the season.
Well,
So,
and your schedule is not going to line up like it did last year in conference play.
no, it is not. So yeah, the last couple games being, I almost lost to South Carolina, had a miraculous comeback because South Carolina is South Carolina, and then Texas, and then Miami. So at home, which, yeah, but doesn't look as bad because Miami's in the Natty now, but it's still not the best feeling. So, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Another big one, Chase Hendricks, wide receiver from the Ohio Bobcats to Cal. That's a pretty solid one. I'm very curious to see how he pairs with Sagaputulele.
It's not just him. Cal has loaded up on offense. They're going to be fun to watch on offense. Defensively, they probably have a lot of holes, but man, they put some weapons around him. So good for Cal for getting those guys and retaining Sagaputulele. I'm very curious on an open ACC conference, how they perform.
Yeah, this dude, just this dude specifically at Ohio, he had 71 receptions, 1,037 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And this dude is going to be interesting to watch with that quarterback. So
Yeah.
definitely curious to see how they do in the ACC or whatever conference it may be at that point. So since there's a lot of ifs about that conference right now, so we shall see. Some other notable transfers: we had DJ Lagway going to Baylor. That was an interesting one. How do you feel about
Yeah.
that one, Chance?
Yeah, the air raid with GJ Lagway,
Yeah.
who does a lot more with his feet than his arm. I don't know. I mean, they've got roots. They had RG3, different system, different QB, but we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to say the least,
Yeah.
but not what I was expecting. No.
Yeah. I definitely tilted my head from that because, I mean, it was one of the I was one of the people that fell victim to expecting too much from Baylor this season. I thought Baylor was going to be special with Sire, and my mindset is if you had Sire Robinson and he played pretty fucking well, even though he disappointed. He still played pretty well for that offense. And now you had DJ Lagway, who was already struggling on a Florida team that had a much better defense. Now you're going to a team that has a terrible defense. I don't think that's going to work in your favor. Yeah, he probably will have a little bit more weapons. It might be a little easier for him, but I'm not confident on this one. The upside is he will play in spring ball for his team as opposed to last season with Florida where he didn't really get those reps in. So, but we shall see. That one was definitely an eyebrow raiser for me. Byron Brown to Auburn, as most of us saw that coming the second he was taken because his coach is to follow his coach there. We saw that coming.
To someone. Yeah.
I definitely I like it. I mean, he did well under his coach there. Auburn is a great school. Definitely if they are kind of getting a little bit slammed in the transfer portal right now, but it will be interesting to see if he can do what he did at the American Conference level in the SEC. So I'm definitely curious.
I believe 100% that physically he'll still be able to do what he's been able to do, because I know SEC is bigger and badder than maybe the um his
American.
competition this year. Yeah. But he's gonna have to rely on his arm more, and I that's a little scary to me. He can make some plays, but he also can make some bad decisions and bad plays. So yeah, I'm iffy about it.
And then we got Bo Prabula, quarterback from Mizzou, going to Virginia to replace Chandler Morris.
I like it.
That's not a bad one. I think that's a pretty good fit for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Mizzou look pretty solid. Not that it was all him. Obviously, their running back was amazing, and their defense was pretty decent. But
Hardy.
yeah, Hardy. Virginia, I think, is a good fit for him. I'm not sure. I'm not going to even try to predict how the ACC is going to go next season. If it
I
even
will. I know exactly how the
Shut up.
ACC goes.
Shut up. Shut up. No. No, you pick a Duke again? Shut up. But I mean that could work out for Virginia, but we shall see because man, the ACC is just so weird, dude. It
Yeah.
is crazy that they have a team in the playoffs still that's going to the Natty, but man, if Miami would have just not done what they did to Louisville and SMU, this wouldn't have even been a thing. It would have just been like, oh, Miami is just so far and above better than it. But I don't get it. I don't get it. The ACC is a weird place, man. But
Yeah.
a big one for it might have fallen under the radar for some, but Jacarius Peak, offensive tackle from NC State, going to South Carolina. Interesting place for him to go, but that he is probably the best offensive lineman in the transfer portal, and now he's going to a team that's offense was struggling hard to protect their quarterback in Lenore Sellers. So that is a huge win for Lenore Sellers because now he's not going to be running for his life as much. So if they can
Yeah.
fill up the other spots on that offensive line and build up those players, South Carolina could be back to form from 2 years ago at least, or 2 seasons ago. See
Yeah.
what
I
they do.
mean, a lot of people fell off of the Lenora Sellers bandwagon. I just believe in him still for some reason. I mean, even when they were losing early, I watched him and I was like, it's not this dude. It's everything around him. So you put some stuff together, and I'm not saying he's going to have the most fantastic season. I'm not going to say that they put enough around him, but this is a start, and he still has wild potential if they can figure that out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He still has the potential. I think we just believed too soon, I guess. We were just like, he's definitely a Heisman candidate. Well, unfortunately, his team was a joke. So same went for Arch Manning. With his team was very much a joke in a lot of ways too. Not to
Yeah.
the same degree as South Carolina, but you know what I mean. And Quincy Porter, wide receiver from Ohio State, jumping ship and going to Notre Dame. So that
I have a lot of people saying that Carr also is a Heisman candidate next year.
he could be. He's got the easiest schedule ever, other than BYU. Like he's like Other than
BYU has to
BYU and
step up,
Miami,
man.
is BYU and Miami, and so if he throws 200 yards in those two games and then just goes what he's been doing to Syracuse and all those other teams this year, yeah, he probably is a Heisman. He could be the Heisman winner because
You know what I see, Chase? I see 2 quality losses on that schedule. Top 12 team.
I hope you're right, man. I really
No, that would be crap if 2 years in a row they have 2 quality losses and no wins, and yet they get in.
no, not with this schedule. This schedule is way worse than last season, dude.
Dude, they won't see it that way.
No, they don't
They'll
even
just
have.
see the name.
No, okay, yeah. Come on. If they didn't have USC on their schedule this season, do you think they would have been in the same position? Because that's what it is this season. They don't have USC for that. So if they did lose to BYU and Miami,
You're talking about the USC team that lost to Hooverless TCU.
in a bowl game, we've talked about how weird the bowl games are with all the opt-outs. But yeah, that was a depressing loss for the Trojans there. I don't know what the hell happened there, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Do you
Really,
think
talk about Notre Dame.
Do you think they'd been in the same position if they didn't have the USC one? Their best one would have been Pitt or Navy.
Yeah, I do. You
No.
think because who's going above them? They really gonna take the chance and put BYU up there? No, I've seen it too many times. I've seen this story too many times. They would not have let BYU go ahead of them.
Chance. Come on now.
Because that's who it would have been, right? It would have been BYU above them, and they would not have done that.
They wouldn't have even been up there, Chance. They wouldn't have had that win. They would have 0 wins ranked. 0 ranked wins.
But they would have put BYU over Notre Dame if Notre Dame didn't beat USC.
They wouldn't have had to because Notre Dame would have been spots below because they wouldn't have had that win.
I'm going to break your heart, Chase. Guess what? Notre Dame was already above BYU before that win.
Before the USC win? Well, no.
They didn't drop them out of the rankings after they were 0-2, and they just kept creeping up no matter who they were beating.
Yeah, towards the beginning of the season, that's because BYU was playing East Carolina and that was
No. I'm talking about Notre Dame. They didn't drop them after losing their 2 quality losses, and then they just keep beating them inferior teams and going up the rankings. Didn't matter who they played.
Yeah, I mean you're right to a degree, but I think that without the USC win, they would have been a couple spots lower because the ranked win is what helped them move up.
No, they were already above BYU, I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
BYU lost to Tech, and they dropped them immediately below Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame had to play USC after that, I'm pretty sure. So I'm pretty sure that that wouldn't have mattered in the equation. They would have been top 12 still, and they would have still made the playoffs.
Well, maybe they would have passed them at that point, but then BYU still had good games like blowing out TCU, beating Cincinnati. Who else did they play? I'm blanking on the schedule, but they had other wins that helped them. So I think without the USC one, BYU would have went above them before the last poll of the year to where they, inevitably ended. But anyway, it's all hypothetical, so who knows?
You're gonna make me look this up.
I'm not making you do anything, Chance. You are doing this out of pure spite.
Maybe. So they were 5-2 at the time. You can bring up the next subject. I'm gonna look this up in the background.
No, that is our last transfer portal guy to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting seeing the transfer portal and what the stakes actually will be, because I mean we can hype some people up right now, but you really don't know until you start playing the football games. Some people look really good in transfer portal and then they turn out to be duds, and some do. But I mean, there are some scary teams. We've noted some of them. Texas, I'm really impressed with their portal. Michigan, I think Oregon's another one that you have to put out there, that they've lost some people, but they've retained a big portion of them. Indiana, obviously, where you're like, hey, it might be just Josh Hoover, but come on. You know that Josh Hoover is going to be a Heisman candidate next year just because he's going into Indiana. So, no, it'll be an interesting season. I did look up, by the way. So before the USC win, BYU was 6-0 and they were 14th, and Notre Dame was 4-2 and they were 15th before that USC win.
Well, there you go. But my point still remains that maybe they were there at that point, but then BYU would have had the solid win against Cincinnati and the solid win against
But
TCU.
why you didn't have the loss? They were 6-0, ranked one spot above them.
But then they had their quality loss.
I don't know.
Quality loss is what's got to brag them up.
It's a hypothetical, but I don't know. They were already 15th without beating anybody in 2 losses. 15th.
Yeah, I know that was a lot of a joke too, but they didn't make it. So
yeah, well,
if
it was the rules of this year, they would have made it.
Yeah, and they're still Notre Dame fans are still. It's funny. I know not all Notre Dame fans nor all Ohio State fans are thinking this way. This is like the extreme of the extreme, making these comparisons and whatnot, the hypotheticals. Notre Dame already with the, oh man, if we would have rematched Miami, would have beat them, and they're in the Natty, so we would have won the Natty, obviously. Like this weird transitive property of hypothetical. You're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then Ohio State's doing the same thing where it's like, we only lost to the 2 teams that are in the national championship. And honestly, we were the better team. We just didn't play to our potential. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a great way to twist it. But to your point earlier where you said you don't know with the transfer portal and everything, it's like, yeah, because on paper you might look like the better team, but then you turn out like Ohio State and choke the 2 games that matter and lose and go home with no hardware whatsoever on a season that you were supposedly the best team ever.
Yeah. Well, and just on top of that, it wasn't just 2 losses. 2 losses in a row. That's not a mistake. That's, hey, two teams beat you up. That's what happened, unfortunately.
That's no bowl wins and no Big Ten championship for the 5th year in a row.
Yeah.
That's very ideal for a watcher like me to see, but not ideal for the Buckeye fan base. So. But I'm sure we'll hear from them with how great they're going to be next year. So, but you got some teams to go through next year. I think they play. I have to look up their schedule. Michigan.
You know what? For the first time in a long time, the Big Ten might be interesting.
Yeah, you are right. Michigan, while you're saying they are probably going to make a big step forward, I think I remember their schedule. They got to play basically everybody next season. So I'm very curious how they're going to do. I think they play Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. So, wow. That will be interesting. I think 2 of them are on the road, too.
Did they play Penn State?
I don't think so.
Okay. I mostly wanted to put in that jab.
Yeah. I'm not sold on Penn State anyway. It's basically just Iowa State North now.
Yeah. I think I was making the joke that, like, why did they even buy the players? They should have just bought Iowa State University.
Yeah.
And then that could be like their G League, and then, they can transfer them over to Penn State. Just buy the university. You seem to have the money and every capability. Just do it. Come on.
Yeah, legitimately. There's an Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Why don't they just have an Iowa University of Pennsylvania?
Do it. Come on. You can buy whatever you want, apparently. Just do it. Buy the university.
Just take the whole. So if Penn State starts upsetting teams next year and beats some of these Big Ten teams, I'm going to laugh when they start talking about how, oh, man, see, he steps up, he goes to Penn State, and this guy's suddenly a winner. It's like, no. This is the same team he had in the Big 12, dude. The Big 12 team's winning right now. Like, what? But we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting. But that's all I have for us here. This is our second to last regular season. I guess this is the last upload of the season. So after this, it'll be off-season content and a recap of the national championship. So we made it. Well, 2/3 of us made it.
Woo! The ghost of Connor. He ascended or something.
Yeah, he was exorcised
from our chat. He lasted like 5 minutes and then poof, he was gone.
Yeah. Hey, yo. But this has been a great season. I've loved doing this with you guys when everybody's here, at least. So this has been a fun one. So once again, thank you to everybody who supported us this whole season or showed up later. We appreciate it. You supported us in season 1 of our podcast, and we greatly appreciate that. So keep the support up. We hope to hear from you guys in the comments here. We'd love to talk to you more. This has been the Concussion Protocol Podcast. This is Chase, Chance, my mom, signing.